Hello, and welcome to Adulthood as a Project, the show where two sisters discuss the lessons learned and growth earned through the realities of life. I'm Charlie, and this is my sister Casey, and we are your hosts.
Yes, and in today's episode, we will discuss re entering the dating scene and if there should be a set of social rules for that. We will also discuss the ins and outs of how each of us has approached the re entry process after divorce. Let's get started. Both of us have had to re enter the dating scene after a divorce. Our first re entry
Yeah.
was in our 20s for both of us. I myself had to approach that as a single mom at that point, which came with its own different set of guidelines. Then Charlie, she re-entered again in her mid-30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty late-ish, but yeah.
Okay, and then my next one, it happened right as I was turning the big 4-0.
Oh, we.
Or
Nothing
as I
like
like to say,
starting midlife
35.
fresh. Yes. Big 3-5.
The big 3-5.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's when you said mid-30s. I'm like, gosh, I actually was later than mid, but whatever. It felt like mid-30s. I felt like I was still 32. It's fine. But, you know, those first marriages, man, they happened so young. It's not like we had a ton of dating experience, advice, or even a model of what a relationship should look like.
Right.
As we've mentioned, our parents were divorced. And when I was 17, I got married to my first husband. And by that point, our dad was on wife number 4, the stripper. And, well, she did give me some great advice for doing some seductive moves for my honeymoon, but that wasn't really relationship advice I needed at that point.
What? You're saying you didn't need advice on how to get your husband to want to have sex with you?
I was doing a pretty good job of keeping him entertained in that area on my own, actually. So, no, I was good there.
Yes. And when you say it out loud, though, when you were 17 and getting married, what
17.
were our
Mom
parents
had,
thinking?
you know what? I gotta say, Mom had to sign a piece of paper to allow me to get married. And I think at that point, she was just like, I sign it or I don't. She's going to do this because I turned 18 on my honeymoon.
It's true.
So it was really a matter of, does Mom sign the paper now or do I just wait a week to get married? And she knew that. So I think she was like, okay, I'll sign off on that. But to look at it now, like, I look at 17-year-olds now and I'm like, you don't know shit about life. What would you possibly know about getting married?
Yes.
But I sure thought I knew exactly what I was doing.
Oh, didn't.
I remember thinking I did.
Yeah. No, I mean, I thought so too at that age. But, our other relationship model, I guess, would have been our mom and stepdad, who now they've been married, 30 years. But at that point,
Yeah, I think so now.
It had been what, maybe 5 or 6 years back
15.
then?
They would have been married at that point by maybe 3 years at my time. So yeah,
Okay.
probably 5 for yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. In all our teenage wisdom, we weren't looking at them and thinking, "Oh, I want a marriage just like what they have."
Right.
Yeah. And I personally don't recall that anybody ever, pulled me aside or had a conversation with me about, hey, this is what a real relationship is about. And here's some characteristics you might want to look for in a spouse. No, I just had to figure that out the hard way, trial and error.
Trial and error indeed. I mean, it would have, that's when you said, think about you being 17. I had two people who were really like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I love him. But no one really
Daddy.
stopped. Right. And like, who would maybe want to say to a 17-year-old, hey, this guy does have a criminal history and he does have a drug history. Sometimes the past tends to repeat itself. Are you prepared for that? And I think, of course, my awesome 17-year-old brain would be like, he's not like that anymore. It, like you said, like
Yes.
trial and error. Because as kids at that age, like I don't remember looking at another relationship and thinking that's what I want.
No,
Like I can't think of adults. Not saying, by no means am I saying adults we were around had bad marriages or anything. I just never looked at any of them and thought that's what I want. I just remembered thinking, this is love. I think I know what love is. And when you love someone, you get married.
yeah, it
I don't
definitely.
know.
I actually just had this conversation last night with the flower child because within the past 2 weeks, we've seen on social media that there's been a couple of friends that are her age that are getting engaged. And the parents are very excited about it. And I said, as a parent, if you came home right now and told me you were engaged, I would not be excited at all. I'd be like, no, baby girl.
Yeah, no. Don't throw your life away.
That's not what we're doing here.
Yeah, stop.
But we did also discuss the fact that I said, if under certain circumstances, Sonny Boy had maybe been dating some girl for several years, and then in the process of, going into the military or something, he came and said he was going to get engaged. I would have probably been okay with that. But his mindset has always been on the future like that. His mindset has always been on the...
Right.
I mean, he was 16 and he bought a minivan because he was pretty sure his future wife would need it to drive around later.
Right.
It didn't matter how
That
many
van
times
lasts that long.
Right, it didn't matter how many times I was like, buddy, you can buy her a new minivan. You don't need to buy a minivan right now. He's like, no, I need a minivan right now, Mom. Okay, dude. Whereas, the flower child has always been a more independent and adventurous. And if she came home with a guy right now, no. Unless she came home with a random hitchhiker, I'd be like, well, that tracks. So
that would track. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, at 17, I don't know. I guess I just thought I knew what I was in for. And I definitely was not prepared for the adult things that were going to happen.
Yeah, and
that I wouldn't have thought about.
Yeah, and exactly, and for me, why would I look at how your relationship and your marriage was going and not think to myself, you know what? I would really like to have a really tweaked out husband of my own to play with.
I'm sure I made it look so fun.
It looked glamorous, so I went and got me one of those.
Yeah, good job. I'm glad I could steer you in that direction.
Yeah, those first marriages, those were for some, those were just blind love. That's what that was, blind love.
Oh, blind love for sure. Which, I don't want to say that. I think that everyone's first love might be a blind love, but that could be a topic for another episode for sure there. But when I did get out of that first marriage, it took me a while before I was ready to even think about like really re-entering the dating scene. So I wasn't taking much seriously at that point because I was just having to learn how to heal a broken heart, and grieve that relationship and decide if I even wanted to try that again.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I know for me, when I got out of the first marriage and I had to re-enter the dating scene, first of all, I had to be honest about what I wanted and what I was looking for. And at that point, I just had zero desire for a relationship. I I didn't want that, you know? So I just had
I'm so sorry.
I just had I'm sorry, I don't know what you're laughing at.
I don't either. I can't stop. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. Yeah, you had zero desire for
So
another relationship.
I Okay, hold on. Stop for a minute. Woo. We're gonna cut all of this out.
Okay. Okay. I think I got it together.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I don't have it together yet. Jesus.
I'm crying. Okay.
I'm not gonna look at you right now. I need you to stop laughing so I can go on.
Okay. I think if you start at that, I have zero desire. I can jump back in.
Okay.
Okay.
So at that point, I had zero desire for.
See a pause button.
Okay, I don't even know. Can I just pause it?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I can get it together.
I'm cutting a lot of this out. It's gonna be fine.
Okay.
So, I had zero desire for another relationship. I had zero desire for another relationship. I had myself a friend with benefits for I think that first year, but then he kind of was he was alluding to wanting a little something more, and I didn't want that at all, so I just cut it off.
Ugh, friends with benefits is for sure an area I have explored for a while, and I still do from time to time. But it's become less frequent as I have gotten more serious.
I'm sorry.
I get it.
And you know what I'm picturing right now? Stupid AI making.
There's a magic. Yes. Oh God. Get it together, Dan. Okay. Okay, are you ready?
Hold on, I'm gonna take a drink.
Okay.
You have to start all over.
Yes. Okay. Well, friends with benefits is for sure an area I explored for a while, and still do from time to time. But it has become less frequent as I've gotten more serious about what I want out of any future relationships. But we all have needs to be met from another human at times, and that good vibrator doesn't always cut it.
I got a dick in my nightstand.
I can use with my left hand. Oh, gosh. Yeah, that good vibrator is a must for us single ladies.
It certainly is. But actually, on the dating scene, you know, you have to remember at that point, I had young kids. So when I was ready to approach dating, I went at it with a more logical look at it. And I was really just looking at what I thought would be best for my kids at the time. Not so much what I wanted in a relationship. I was more thinking, is this guy going to show my daughter how she should be treated? And is he going to teach my son how to treat a lady? I had thought that I had done a really good job at finding that person when I got remarried. But, well, we both know that that turned out to not be right.
I think we all thought that you had done a really good job. I mean, who knew that you needed to vet if this person would eventually be attracted to one of your kids 10 years down the road, right?
I mean, you know, that is obviously now the very first question I ask on a date. I just show
Right.
a picture of my kids and I'm like, how attractive do you think they are?
Feel like an answer, honestly.
Yeah, because if I need to punch her in the face right now, that's fine.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
no, I mean, but really, I don't think that anybody could have seen what was coming in that second marriage. I don't even
Not
think.
at all.
I don't even think his ex-wife could have given me a heads up about that. But it does lead me to wonder if we should maybe get like recommendations from an ex to be able to re-enter the dating scene.
Oh, a recommendation letter? That could definitely be interesting, actually. Like, yeah, like your ex would have to say, like, fill out maybe a questionnaire about what they did wrong in the relationship and what you did wrong in the relationship, and then maybe say, like, what was right with it. And then if they think that you're ready to re-enter the dating scene.
Right, yeah. I mean, something like that. I think something along those lines. And then those letters, they would have to be posted. If you're on a dating app, you have to post them on your dating app profile.
Ooh. Oh.
Or, like carry them around with you whenever you go out.
What? I don't know about carrying around a physical copy of a letter every time I leave the house. I could email you my recommendation letter, like if it came to it, and you're like, I'll send that to your email.
Yeah, can you imagine just like bumping into somebody?
Here's my papers. Like you're, I got my shots.
I'm cleared to re-enter the dating scene.
You don't have to ask if they're single. You're like, here's my papers. I'm clear to be here, single and free, ready to bingle.
Yes. Oh. Okay, so maybe we don't take physical copies out with us. It makes more sense to email them or something like that.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But so you send a little copy over after, and then like after you read it, you decide if you want to date or not.
Like after, like maybe you go on a first date. Say you go out with them on a first date. Like they ask you out to go out, and then you're like, okay, I'll go on a first date because they seem attractive. And then if you both think maybe you want to see each other again, then maybe exchange your letters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could see that. I like the idea that you would kind of form your own opinion first before seeing the letter. And then I think we would have to decide like who has to write the letter. Because if I'm dating somebody for 2 months, I'm sorry, nobody needs to read a letter about that. That'd be ridiculous. But I think
like that person doesn't even know you.
Yeah. I mean, 2 months.
Yeah.
I probably didn't really like you in the first place.
The 2 months only lasted that long because our schedules only collided enough for us to go out 3 whole times.
Yeah. But I mean, I think if you're getting out of any marriage or an engagement, you would need a letter. I know that I could for sure get a letter from my ex-husbands, both of them, telling about what a great wife I am. I mean, okay,
You think they'd both write you that?
well, Jaybird is dead, so he's not gonna write anything.
Okay, but he
I could
would
have
have
a
written you a
seance.
good one.
We'll
Yes,
get the
he
Ouija
would have
board
written
out.
you a good one.
Get the Ouija board out and talk to him. He said it's really good.
Yeah, I would agree he would. But you're the second. What do you think?
What,
Or you know what? Jaybird's dad could vouch for you.
Jaybir's dad would, yeah. He thinks I'm his daughter anyways, so yeah, I think that he's
Right.
gonna vouch for me. And then the second one, I gotta be honest, I don't think that I should even be required to get a letter from him because I don't think his opinion should even, give any merit on any dating scene.
True. Yeah, but his opinion should not have any merit for sure. Like, very true. But imagine if you did make him fill out a paper about exactly what he did, and then you could show that to everyone. That alone could be funny.
I think it'd keep him off the dating scene.
Yes, it would. And if you need references on the recommendation, throw me in there. I got you. Oh man, I would say, my first ex would definitely write me a glowing recommendation for sure. The last one would probably be a 50-50 on his mood, I suppose. But you'd also you got to consider how that relationship ended and what kind of mindset the other person would be writing from. Like, my narcissistic ex-husband is going to have a very skewed view of our relationship, and then how would you explain that to someone without me sounding like I'm the crazy person to the new person?
Yeah.
So they don't think I'm completely insane. But I'm like, no, they're insane. And they're like, really? According to this letter of recommendation, you are. I'm like, no, I swear it's them.
I mean, you are crazy, but you're the good kind of crazy. So
Okay.
you just have to get the new guy to see that you're the good kind of crazy.
I'm the good crazy man. So I'll put you on as my reference. That should help things out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. So we say this was a real thing, which I think is kind of a really cool idea. If you can read someone else's letter of recommendation and just keep an open mind, then this could really work, right? Because you got to remember that person also could have made a bunch of huge changes in themselves after the relationship ended. Because I know I've made huge strides in who I am as a person since my last relationship, and I'm not the same. And upon my self-reflection on it, I'm glad I'm not the same because there were mistakes I made that I don't want to make again, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you would have to keep an open mind, and you would also have to look at how long ago was that relationship, right? And it's
Right.
it's just imperative that you learn from your past relationships, and in order to grow as a person. There's times that relationships, sometimes they just end due to differences in where you're at in lives,
Right.
and it's nothing bad is going on, but the ones that end with not so good, then those are the ones that you just need to take a step back and learn from them.
Yeah. Oh, now that you mention it, you should have to show proof that you've been single for 2 months before you're even allowed to date seriously again. 2 months to me or something, but having fun is one thing, but the serious date, shouldn't be done until you've done some healing, in my opinion, right? So if I meet someone and they're like, oh, I just got out of a relationship a month ago. I'm like, yeah, you're not ready to be here. Not on the serious side of things anyway.
Right. I mean, if you're just here looking for a little fun, that's fine. But I'm going to need to see your papers, sir.
Yes. Yeah. And the papers can have the date relationship ended.
Yes. Oh man, I definitely agree. There has to be some time there, and you have to have done your self-reflection and your healing before getting into another relationship. You see those relationships where people have jumped just from one to another, and
No, I am being I'm just shocked. I've never seen that in my life. No, no. And I've always seen those end up so well.
yeah, they usually work out real great.
Yeah.
But it takes that time to figure out what role it is that you played in the relationship ending so that you can
Yeah.
Move on.
Well, and what I learned in my experience with it is in that self-reflection, it led me to see more of like what I did want out of any future relationship, but it wasn't easy, right? Like on the surface, both of mine ended in basically cheating, not on my part, the other person. But ultimately, I mean, just an ultimate, like what led down that path. And so it was easy to walk away and just be like, oh, they did this. So it was just easy. And I had nothing wrong to do with it. And I always am like, no, that's not true. Because it takes two to make it and it takes two to break it. So I had to sit there and take responsibility for things I had done wrong in order to move past that and heal, right? And to grow from it.
Yeah. Because, and I would say, especially with that first marriage, that I could have walked away from that, and I don't think anybody that knew us would have even disagreed if I had put all the blame on him and said, look at what he does.
Not at all. Yeah.
But in reality, I had to look at it and say, man, I wasn't the best. That was not the best version of me.
Yeah.
And
I don't mean it wasn't a good version of you. I'm agreeing in the fact that is exactly where you're like, what do I want to change moving forward to bring a better version of myself, to the next person?
Exactly, because you don't want to have a repeat of the same mistakes that you made in that last relationship and bringing them to the next one.
So true. And it's I still remember making somehow, good Lord knows how, I still managed to make some of those similar mistakes the second time around, which just had me have to dig deep down there and be like, Charlie, did you not work through that the first time? Like I thought I had and I didn't. So obviously not all the same mistakes by any means, but there was a couple in there. But I was also really proud of that I could have taken that I got to take some of the lessons learned on the first one and not make them the second time around. So I'm like, oh, there's just room for growth there, right?
Right. And I would say, again, it goes back to it definitely depends on how a relationship ends. Like, what is the event surrounding it? Because with that second one, on my end, I mean, that was him.
Oh, absolutely.
However, I still had to look at the relationship and say, was that exactly what I wanted? And if not, what do I need to do differently in the future?
Right, because obviously, like you said, the reason it ended completely him. You would have stayed where you're at and kept doing things, but because it ended where it ended and how it ended, you could still take that as an opportunity to say, what would I like different in my next relationship? Without stating the obvious one there. But
Right.
Right. without that number one vetting question. However, like, what do I want in different? And I remember going into my second one, and I thought I was going in with eyes wide open. I thought I knew what I was getting into. I felt that I understood relationships better. I knew what I was looking for. And when everything ended, I was just sitting there looking at myself and going, what the hell? Which, granted, I had to then start realizing like how many red flags I chose to look past. You know what, the small things. They were small things. They were all small things before the marriage that I thought weren't a big deal, and I still had that slight idea of my love can change you. My love's strong enough to fix those little things. So,
And I would say, for me, like I told you, that first one, it was just such a blind love, such a blind. And he honestly, I mean, he could have done just about anything, and I'd have been like, oh, it's okay. I still love him.
I know, trust me. We had the same experience for sure, minus having children, thank goodness. For me, I'm glad you had kids. Just glad I did not.
Yeah. And then,
I mean, I will say, he and I joke even later in life that we would have made good, like ex-parents. Like, we could have made good co-parents because we still got along. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm like, you and I had the same experience, I think, that first time around of, he could have said anything and I would have, do you think the sky's red? Okay. I thought that was blue, but if that's red, like, you got it. I'm in.
Yes.
Stupid.
Indeed. But then with the second one, I'm telling you, I went into that just completely on a logical thinking basis. Logical.
Eyes wide open.
And well, again, this would come down to, I am not a super emotional person. And I don't rely on my emotions for much of anything.
Weird.
I tend to just, when I'm making a decision about something, it's going to be a decision I've made logically, not a decision where I'm just like, oh, my heart says that you're perfect. No. I don't trust that girl. She's.
Have you seen that joke or the saying of, when the heart and the mind disagree, it's the liver that pays the price?
No.
That's me, because I'm like, my heart says this, and my mind is telling me that might not be the smartest. Like, but there's so much love here. I'll drink on it.
Oh, man. But, it did make me wonder, because I'm just, when I have to think about how to approach, like another relationship, do I want to go into it just on logic, or do I want to make sure there's some feelings behind it before I get too advanced in that, per se?
I mean, my advice, right? I would always say, make sure there's some feelings there. But I can't just be all logic on that. So I gotta, if the feeling's not there, what's the logic matter anyway?
Yeah. Well, because it makes sense.
I guess. If I'm not, I know I'm not going to feel like I did at 17 again, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I need to be feeling something, man. I need to feel something.
Right.
Oh. I would say, though, the lesson learned and growth earned on this: be self-reflective when a relationship ends in order to not bring the old habits into the new relationship. And make sure your new partner has done the same.
It is vital to make sure that your new partner has done the same. Yeah, I would definitely go into that a little bit more. Maybe we should.
You want to go into that more?
Well, maybe not today. Do you think we could do another episode or something?
Okay. We can probably cut back and go there a little bit if you want. I think we're going to get low on time, though.
Well, how much time do you think we spent laughing?
A good 10 minutes, actually. Good point. Okay, okay, I'm gonna give you a starting line. We'll see how we can slide it into things, because don't go off the lesson learned part. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll go back. So yeah, I think it'd be a good idea always, how do you know if that other person did their growth? Just because we've sat here and worked on ours, how do you think they can show you they've done theirs?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I know that in my previous relationship, we had one of those talks where I said, what happened in that relationship? Why'd you get divorced or whatever? And I was just listening to hear if he would say, here's what she did, blah, blah, blah.
I was just thinking the same thing. Like, I try to listen for that as well. If the other person is just going to play the blame game on why their relationship ended, or do they say, well, it started with this, but then I realized I did this, or like, I definitely listen to their verbiage on the reason it ended.
I do too, because if they can't be honest with themselves at that point, you probably don't need to be pursuing that relationship much further.
Right. And probably if you ask the question the right way and actually listen to the answer, you can get a good idea of if that person did try or not. Because if they didn't, like you said, why even pursue it? Because there's someone who hasn't taken the time to know themselves any better from it.
Right. And so they haven't grown and they're not ready for something new.
Yeah. So until we get this recommendation letter socially accepted everywhere,
Yeah.
listen to the verbiage.
I'm gonna
that goes both male and female.
Yeah. I'm gonna call up Jay Bird's dad later and see if he can't get that recommendation letter out to me.
I look forward to reading it. Well, I can get that recommendation letter for my first, but my second, I've kind of avoided all contact for a few years now, so not sure how that one's going to work.
Maybe his parents will give you a letter too.
You know what? I could get a letter from his parents for sure. just planned a little weekend trip with them a few days ago. I'd say maybe that's something to think about, though. If the ex would give you a not great one, but someone in their immediate family would, that's something to think about. Just saying.
This is true.
Not saying your ex wouldn't have given you one. He's just not alive to do so right now.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
But he'd be down for it. He'd be like, yeah, it's fine.
He would be. Yeah. With that killer smile of his on his face while he did it. So.
That's right.
Oh, man. So, yeah. Well, I would definitely say our lesson learned and growth earned on this. Be self-reflective when a relationship ends in order to not bring the old habits into the new relationship. And make sure your new partner has done the same.
Yes. In our next episode, we'll explore checking reviews, and you're going to get our hot take on that. Thanks for listening.
That's going to be fun.
Until next time, go out there and be your favorite self.
Yes. And if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, send us an email at adulthoodisaproject@gmail.com. And make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite listening platform to catch all our future episodes.
Hold on.
I think it's still recording.